what is now pre-Cyclone 3L. We still can't get our head around how we do these things, but what they think will be the next tropical storm is going to form in the Gulf of Mexico, and tropical storm warnings have been issued for Louisiana and tropical storm watches extending into Texas. My name is Nathan Foy. You'll be able to see me somewhere. There I am. Hello. I'm also joined by the Skype team. This hour it's consisting of 4 people: Craig, Cesar, David, and Isaac. I'm so sorry I forgot who it was for a moment. Hello.
Hello.
We're over
Good
there
evening.
somewhere, yes.
Good afternoon. Hello.
We're live.
We are indeed. You can see both systems at the bottom of your screen now as it is. 93L on the left, which has developed a circulation, and Bret on the right hand side, which is closing in on Trinidad as we speak, really, and there's lots of tropical storm warnings that are occurring over there. Whilst we're live, you can send us a message at any time. Start your message with Force 13 in the comments section on the YouTube page, and if we get any more news, we'll let you know straight away. There's a lot to talk about, really, and I don't know who'd like to begin for us. Any volunteers? No, I guess not.
Okay.
I guess not. No, the response is deafening.
Yes.
You want to go with the severe threat?
They're all there on the bottom right hand side of the page. Let's begin with Invest 93L and the warnings that have just been issued for US interests there, extending as far into Texas. I don't know exactly how far into Texas. I don't know if Isaac might know.
Oh, I do. Kind of.
Since he's there.
It's into almost into Galveston is where they have the watches into, and the warnings. I think they stop them. I think on the Texas-Louisiana border. No, not the Texas-Louisiana border. They have tropical storm warnings for New Orleans. Basically, nearly all of Louisiana, the coastal portion of Louisiana, is under a tropical storm warning, and then also to the western parts are also under, like Shreveport area.
Yeah, the tropical storm watch
tropical
is
storm watches.
west of Intracoastal City to High Island, Texas, I believe it was.
Yeah, it is.
And then you've got the warning, which has just been issued, which is from Intracoastal City to the mouth of the Pearl River. A tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions are expected somewhere within the warning area, generally within 48 hours. In this case, it's probably about right. Maybe a little bit less, though. A tropical storm watch... 24 to 36 hours for the warning. The watch is 48 hours, which is about right for some of those, particularly the Texas area. But yes, within 24 to 36 hours for the tropical storm warning, I'd say that is also fair. It's very broad. The eastern side of the system is the part with the tropical storm force winds. It's not a tropical storm yet, I hasten to add. We are talking as if it is, but it does have tropical storm force winds, but they haven't yet designated it as a tropical storm. But the reason why they've made it a pre-tropical storm, whatever they want to do, the 3L designation, I don't know where we go with that, just means that they're just so that they can issue the warnings, I think, for a non-tropical storm. It's very confusing. We may as well just stick to what the warnings are and what you really need to know. It's going to become a tropical storm very soon, and then possibly a tropical storm landfall. Let me just also mention what it's predicting for the actual forecast. National Hurricane Center think it's not going to intensify much, only to 40 knots, which is 45 miles per hour sustained winds, only a little bit stronger than it is now. And it's located at 24.7 north, 88.7 west, according to the National Hurricane Center. As for Bret, we've known the warnings for quite some time. They're still in effect, of course. The warnings are in effect for Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, and Venezuela, from Pedernales to Cumana, including Isla de Margarita. You'll be able to see that on your screen shortly as well, but it's not being particularly forthcoming, so it'll take a few seconds longer than I would have liked. There it is, somewhere. The latest forecast on Bret. This was from Force 13 Suze, issued around 3 hours ago. It's still pretty much up to date. And a tropical storm watch for all of the ABC islands in the southern Caribbean there. And that storm is expected to peak now only with winds of 40 miles an hour. They don't think it will strengthen any more, despite previous forecasts saying that it would. And indeed, some models for both storms, HWRF in particular, saying that both of these systems would become hurricanes. It doesn't appear like that is going to happen, but you never know. If you've got any questions, send them in. Craig, what's your take on what's been going on? You've been quite outspoken in what you've been saying about what is now Bret.
Yes, a couple of members have been getting a bit near enough irate, shall I say.
Irate?
If that's
a bit
if
far.
that's the word. If that's the word, you can't really describe the words that was going through our heads. That to be with 0 to L. That's now thankfully Bret. Bret was looking a legitimate tropical storm and still is. I'm surprised it wasn't named sooner than what it is now.
Yeah.
Instead of being named,
I think we
it
all
should
are,
be named
really.
sooner. I think it should have been named way sooner than what it is. It should. I don't feel it should have been named now. I think it should have been named a couple of days ago, maybe last night.
Maybe not
at the
days.
early-
I mean, Force 13 said that it was a tropical storm at about 6 a.m. this morning, some 12 to 15 hours ago. That's when we thought our official stance for it to be a tropical storm, but I guess that's all in the past now. We're now looking forward, and the warnings are in effect, rightfully so. It looks like a landfall on Trinidad.
Yeah, look, it's starting to look like it right now, as the forecast from the National Hurricane Center is hinting at. They're hinting at a potential landfall in Trinidad, which
It's
would
looking that way.
be, if I am not mistaken, that would be the second furthest low latitude landfall.
Oh, it really
Correct?
depends. If it was to make landfall south of Trinidad, it would become the second furthest south landfalling storm. After, of course, Martha in 1969, which hit
right.
Panama.
Well, regardless of this, when the storm does make landfall, it's going to be still interesting to see what it does afterward when it gets back out over water, when it enters the Caribbean.
Well, it's not going to be looking good for it by then, is it?
Well, a lot can change from now to then, because obviously the National Hurricane Center are forecasting it to leave land on about 2 p.m. Tuesday. And a lot can change from now to then. Shear could drop drastically or increase drastically.
Well, we've got other people here as well. Joining us from Mexico is Cesar. How are you doing, Cesar? And what are your thoughts on these two systems?
Hello, Nathan. I'm pretty good, thank you. And my thoughts on, well, first of all, I'm going to start with Bret. I said before that I don't see that Bret or 92L was running out of time to form, because I saw the system that wasn't enough organized and it wasn't being designated, and now it started to accelerating really fast. Right now it's moving almost 30 miles per hour to the west, and well,
sort of west-northwest, isn't it?
Yes, I think west or west-northwest. And well, when a system accelerates that much, it can intensify a lot, or even struggle with intensification. So now I think, I must say that finally it was designated, and I hope that the people from Trinidad and the Windward Islands and maybe in some part of Venezuela as well are getting prepared to maybe for some effects with the storm. And about the system in the Gulf of Mexico, looks really awful. I mean,
it's looking better. It's got a low-level circulation.
Yeah, it's better than another storm.
The circulation is there, but it is all displaced to the west of the storm is kinda exposed.
But realize something, games. It's got something that another storm never had. I
Well, we
know
will see.
a lot of people know what I'm on about.
Well, we will see in the future. I mean, we saw in the past few days a lot of dry air in the Gulf, and maybe this will be a challenge for that system. Actually, really big system, and but right now has tropical storm winds, so we could see tropical storm Cindy anytime as well.
Okay. So, some interesting questions. One that's completely unrelated, and we do like unrelated questions sometimes. Someone wants to know what made me choose the name Force 13. Of course, I founded the project nearly 5.5, nearly 6 years ago, and it seemed rather logical that you want to go one. Sorry, I can't really explain myself very well today, but the Beaufort scale goes up to Force 12 over here in the UK, still well renowned over here, not so much in other places, and I just thought one better would be 13, but little did I know at the time, many years ago, that Hong Kong and Macau over in Asia had scales that go up to 17. But don't tell anyone that, okay? How big in miles...
Well, now you know what's going to happen.
How big in miles wide do you think Cindy will be? Well, Cindy's not been named yet, to our knowledge. Unless they've changed something. But to our knowledge, Cindy has not been named yet. But it looks like it's going to be Cindy, the one in the Gulf. And I don't know if anyone wants to answer that question. How many miles wide people think it might be?
Looks like it will be like, well, I don't know,
It is pretty
500 or
large.
600. At least
On one
500 miles wide or 600.
500?
Yes, I don't know.
Games.
Depends how well it's defined. Surely you don't mean 500 miles
Well,
of
it looks like it's
tropical
only
storm
a
force
line
winds.
of
That's
storm.
Sandy-sized. It's not
No,
going to be
Sandy
anywhere
was
near.
the double of it.
Was it? Oh yeah. Well, that's radius. You're talking that. I was talking
Ah, well,
radius.
what's the radius?
You could
well,
talk
that's-
diameter if you like. It's very confusing, isn't it? But yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes,
pretty
I-
large at the moment. I don't know what the stats are on that wind field right now. Let me just try and find that out. Yeah, not very forthcoming.
I don't know whether the National Hurricane Center have got a little area of the wind field. Let me just see.
Well, they've got tropical storm force winds on it, obviously.
Yeah.
The wind field actually does extend out 180 nautical miles, I believe it is, or it might just be normal miles. Not much difference between the two. I believe Hank has now joined us as well.
It's been a while since this thing should have been named. I'm just saying. It's probably been a tropical storm for a day. I'm going to be dead serious.
Well,
Here we go.
Clarify which one you're talking about there. There's sort of two systems here
Bret.
now. Yes.
Bret,
The one
Because-
and only.
93L is Colin's shadow pretty much, but...
Oh,
yeah,
I wouldn't say that. It's better than Colin.
But
yeah.
it's
but
got, it's got a center.
it's not
but-
saying much, exactly.
And how do you feel about tropical storm watches now encroaching into your state?
Tropical storm watches are for Texas?
For
I
a tiny
just-
bit of it.
I just got home.
Yes.
Wait, is
They're
93L...
like they stop at
93L
Galveston is where they stop at.
93L
Correct.
Is
For
93L...
Texas.
Is
No,
93L...
it's potential cyclone 03L right now.
Yes.
Not named. That's
Okay.
Brett's named.
Okay. So, yeah, this...
I have the tracks in the chat if you need to look at them.
Yeah, I have the NHC up right now. So yeah, this thing looks like it's also going to become a tropical storm. Probably next name is Cindy, if you were curious.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like watches extend pretty much to Galveston, so that might be something to watch out for. But yeah, it looks like Louisiana is probably going to get a hit from this one. Instead of your typical track, which is curving back towards Florida, it looks like it's going to curve back towards
Well,
the
doesn't
west.
it remind you of something happened? I think was it 2012 or 2013? One of those early storms.
Okay, Debbie had a much more complicated steering pattern than this.
Made
This
a
could
mistake with-
this was a lot. This is a lot more confident than Debbie was. Debbie could have done anything. It could have gone back into the Caribbean. It could have gone to
True, but
Bacon. She
it's
could have gone
still-
anywhere.
It's still not completely set in stone because it looks
yeah.
like it's going to really slow down when it's over that area. Not saying it's going to completely do a U-turn, but perhaps it could make landfall a little bit further west or east.
possible. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to say at this juncture, obviously, but
Yep.
you know, anything's possible with the storm with this poor of a structure. I mean, you could get center relocations that completely mess up the forecast track and divert it either west or east.
We'll show you the latest visible from for 93L shortly as well. But the what appears to be this new centre that seems to be forming is looking, well, actually, there's two right next to each other now in the latest image. Two little vortices that are really competing.
Let me
Wow,
screenshot.
it is calling shadow then.
Well, at least they're close together. They might even merge into one.
Well, that's
Once the imagery is finished loading, we'll show you the close-up on what these two vortices are doing. I wonder whether they're actually circling around each other. I'm just trying to get the animation, and we'll have that for you shortly.
Nathan, I already have imagery up of 03L. I guess.
Yes.
So, yeah, this is GOES 16 imagery. If anyone was curious, that's pretty clear. There's a bunch of vortices that look like they might be trying to merge.
And at the beginning of that loop, you can see at the very bottom a third one there as well, which looks like it's gone now, and just those two mainly.
Yeah, this has gone up, and then it's just gone to a burst convection, and that's pretty much it. So, in fact, this actually looks like it's being affected to the southwest, just like this one was. So
it looks like they're both moving in a. Overall, it looks like a sort of westerly direction.
Yeah, they're dancing around each other. So when that happens, you're going to get some weird motions. But once they consolidate into one center, if they consolidate into one center, then we will have a better idea of where it's actually going. Because when there's models do poorly. When there's no center, models do poorly. So, or spaghetti plots do poorly rather. So it's all up. It's up in the air. We know this thing is going to move north. That's pretty much guaranteed. Mexico solution is pretty much off the table. The southern solution is off the table. The Florida solution to some extent is off the table. But, then anything can happen. Louisiana just looks like the most likely scenario at this point in time. Forgot which tab it was. That's the tab. Okay. So, yeah. Interesting situation unfolding. I will say, though, if this does become a tropical storm when Bret is still active, it's the first time since 1968 where we've had two simultaneous tropical storms in the Atlantic. In the month of
so that's interesting because 1968 was one of the Atlantic's distant analogues.
Yeah, but it was also a very quiet season. It was very focused in the early
maybe we'll
part.
have a start like 1968 and the rest of the season like 2010, like we've been saying for a long time.
Well, if the rest of the season is like 2010, then we're in for one wild ride.
Certainly. That is the closest analogue to the Atlantic currently, right now. These things do change over time. There was a time about a month or two ago when it looked as though 2005 might have been a good analogue, but that is drifting away, you'll be pleased to know.
Here's the thing about 2010 was relatively inactive start. Yeah, you had Alex, but like with numbers, really inactive. It didn't really get started until mid-August, and when I say it got started, it just took the ground running, basically. Yeah, they're not saying
and
the
quiet
season
elsewhere.
What do you mean by that?
In the world, well, Pacific mainly, 2010, really quiet.
Yeah, well, not in the beginning for the Eastern Pacific at least, but...
Oh, we've had the opposite this time.
Yeah. Well, we have had 3 named storms, but they're all measly, weak, whatever.
They were pretty terrible.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Best.
One was blink and you missed it, so...
Yeah, and Craig did blink, and he did miss it. Let's just reiterate. I just want to reiterate, as we do when warnings are out there every so often, what the warnings actually are, if you missed the top of the show. For Tropical Storm Bret, which has just formed, as you can see, the warnings are in effect tropical storm warnings for Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, and Venezuela from Pedernales to Cumana, including the Isla de Margarita. Tropical storm watches for the ABC Islands.
On Air Curacao and Aruba, if anyone's curious.
Indeed. And for... I never know what to say with this thing. 3L. What
Just
should
call
be
it.
what should be Cindy soon. Tropical storm warning is in effect for Intracoastal City to the mouth of the Pearl River, and a tropical storm watch is in effect for west of Intracoastal City to High Island. And how much rainfall are we expecting out of this as well? In fact, the National Hurricane Centre did put out that too.
4 inches plus.
4 to 8 inches with isolated maximum amounts of 10 inches over southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi and Alabama, and the western Florida Panhandle through Wednesday evening is what they're saying. And now it appears that it's probably Hank there has gone to the models section.
Yeah, I'm just going to ignore that because that is an unlikely solution that GFS is spitting out. So I'm just going to change bars and that's annoying. Never mind. Let's try this. So this is okay. This is probably the most likely rainfall output scenario. So actually, I'm going to zoom in on the southeast. So the reason why you're seeing because the center is supposed to make landfall somewhere in central or western Louisiana at this point, at least. You see all this rain over towards Mississippi, Alabama, and western Florida. This is because this is going to be a system that is heavily weighted on the right side, as you can clearly see in this imagery. All the convection is to the east of the center. So if I can find that tab again, well, that's an issue. There we go. All this rain is just going to be surging right into the central Gulf Coast. So that's why the area near the landfall center won't have as much rain. You're still going to get rain. A lot of rain probably, but probably not as much as areas on the eastern side because you're going to get that northern part of the storm, which is going to come in and then it's going to be done. For the eastern side, you're going to have that side, but it's not just going to be come and done. It's just going to keep coming up. So this model in particular is saying we could have as much as potentially a foot of rain coasts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Pensacola. Don't know about that yet, but it's a possibility. And also note that these rainfall totals do also extend into eastern Texas and other parts north of that.
You look at the thing right now that all of it is so displaced to the east, and this is one or two models. Which model was that?
This is the CMC.
Oh, right. But one or two models were saying that this system would be stalling right off the coast, possibly for up to 2 days before moving inland.
Now, this is the reason why I didn't show to GFS, because it's not really having a good handle on the exact location of the storm, because it's putting it up into here, but it's only bringing in at least half an inch of rain in the area where it makes landfall. It's putting it all out here. I don't think it's a very
But if it was to make landfall looking like how it does right now, there'll be hardly any rainfall at the landfall zone.
Well, things can change.
Things can change.
In fact, this storm might be oriented with convection north and east of the center. In fact, I actually read something from the National Hurricane Center that said this thing, believe it or not, might go subtropical. So that would mean that it's all spread out away from the center, and it doesn't have to be on all sides, but it can be on halfway around. So that's also a legitimate.
Might do a T.S. Lee of 2011.
Okay, I don't want to go that far, but it's definitely a possibility.
Extreme example. Yeah, very curious, and you can see that the rainfall amounts, high amounts extending far inland too. There.
Yeah, it's because this storm just doesn't die when. That's a lot of things. That's something that people don't really understand. Storms don't just die when they hit land; they keep going inland. They weaken, but they don't die. And winds don't become as big of a threat. The rain is the biggest threat. I always say this when there's tropical cyclones. It's not the winds that are the biggest threat. It's the water every single time, pretty much. Because this isn't going to be a storm surge event. This is going to be a rain event. Because, like I said earlier, it's just going to train up into that area and drop a lot of rain. How much rain exactly? Not sure still. There's still a little bit of uncertainty in the forecast, not as much as some other storms of this nature. Debbie of 2012, a prime example of huge uncertainty in this area. Oh, yeah. Because there's a little bit. This storm is on the outside of something we call a call, and that's when you have. In fact, let me just put up a little bit of a broader picture for people who don't really understand what I'm going to be exactly detailing. But so we have a couple of things going on right here, and I need to go to the current so we can detail this. So we have a ridge right here, a trough right here, and then some more low pressure associated with the remnants of the system down in the Caribbean. So then you have this area over the southeast of the United States where there's very weak steering currents. This is south of that. So if this were in this area, then we'd be talking about a Debbie type scenario where it'd be, where is this thing going? Nobody has any clue. So that fortunately is not the case, and it looks a bit more likely that because it's farther south, this ridge is likely to pick it up and then move it in towards Louisiana and then back on out into the eastern part of the United States. So that's the most likely scenario at this point. National Hurricane Center track lays that out quite, easily, where you have this track basically going right into western Louisiana. And I've been talking for a while, so if anyone wants to pick up the table, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if David, you'd like to say anything at this moment in time. What are your thoughts? You said just before the beginning of the show that you didn't think either of them would get named right now, but one of them has, and the other one got the designation of 3L.
Well, I'll have to retract what I said, but...
Sorry to bring that up whilst we're on the air.
That's okay, but I'm going to fire this question to you. When's the last time we saw a June system so early in the hurricane season for this region?
Last year, we had a bunch last year.
Okay, here's this
you
one.
You might want to rephrase it maybe to ask
yes,
how,
I know. Well, I'm down here in the
storms,
southern hemisphere, so I'm learning. But
yes.
1990.
What about it?
What was the system back in 1990?
There are
for this time of the world.
I think Arthur
part of June.
Oh yes.
There was no storm in June. I think Arthur formed in July, but
I think it was actually August.
I think it was. 1 second. Let me just check really quick.
It doesn't matter anyway, but that one was.
You mean the Hurricane Arthur of 20?
No, not that one.
No.
A female's name.
Arthur's not a female name.
No, the one I cited was a female song.
Are we talking about something else now?
Arthur is not a female name.
In this area at this time of year, was that hurricane or cyclone Fran?
You're probably talking about Alma of 1974.
1990, Fran?
Wait. There was no Alma of 1974 in this area, I believe.
There was? Hit Trinidad.
I thought we were talking about...
Oh, no. The other one. In Bret's area.
Come on, Nathan. You go back and put your...
come on, guys.
Thinking cap on. Wasn't it Cyclone Fran? F-R-A-N?
Yeah, Fran did hit Trinidad in 1990. That is also something that...
Okay, that's the one that I cited.
Other storms that have
what do we know about that one?
Other storms that have hit Trinidad in the past, Bret of 93, actually. That's pretty...
Another Bret.
We're seeing two storms of the same name hit the same area. In this area, it's pretty unusual to see one storm in this area, for that matter. Isidore, when it was a tropical depression in 2002. The Trinidad hurricane of 1933, excuse me. Don't think back to that storm, but whatever. Others, let me just think of more off the top of my head. I think Joyce of 2000 came close. I'm not sure, though.
Hurricane Joyce? Of which year?
2000. Joyce, I think, did. So yeah, well, Games is checking Wikipedia. Let's.
I have to, but yeah.
Martinez said 1988.
Joyce didn't hit Trinidad.
It didn't. Okay.
No.
Martinez brings up Joan. I don't think it formed by that point. It might have. I don't remember though.
I think it did, but I might have been looking at what might have been. I think it did.
It was just north of Trinidad. It formed in the main development region, but it moved north.
It was slightly further north.
That,
of course, being much later in the season.
Yeah. So, yeah, but long story short, this area doesn't normally get hit by tropical cyclones very often. They can get, tropical storm force winds from storms moving further north, but they don't normally get hit directly by tropical cyclones. And, especially at this time of year, I'm really concerned that this formed in mid-June. You don't see main development regions in June very often. This is the 6th in recorded history. I know there was one in 2003, 2000, 1979, and 1933, and there was one that was northeast of the Cape Verdes. I cannot remember for the life of me when that was. But it's basically, and what I'm trying to say is that this is very, very unusual, and this might be a sign of things to come, potentially.
Well, 6 times since satellites. Uncommon.
Well, all the storms that hit, all the storms that formed in the main development region in June basically didn't hit this area. I think only Ana of 1979 and the Trinidad hurricane of 1933 did. The 2003 and 2000 depressions stayed out in the middle of the main development region and died in the Saharan air layer. So this is quite unusual.
You're looking at it right now. Do you think it is stronger than 40 miles an hour?
Let me refresh the GOES 16 page and I'll tell you for sure what I think. Possibly.
And what are they? The National Hurricane Center, with their update, they previously said 1,005 millibars, and now they say 1,007. Maybe that's just because Recon couldn't find anything lower, but 40 miles an hour, it looks pretty good for that, and pressures are probably a little bit higher down there at its low latitude than you'd expect.
What did Recon say?
I don't recall. I wasn't particularly looking, but I'm sure they had 10-second winds of 40 knots, I believe. Probably doesn't translate well. But I think it's going to have a 45 mile an hour peak. I think it ought to have. Whether they say it will or not, who knows. But in fact, both of these storms may well have a 45 mile an hour peak. The National Hurricane Center are predicting that for Invest 93L as well.
They are? I thought it'd be stronger than that. Okay.
Yeah, I did as well. But no, just 45 miles an hour.
Huh. Well, apparently, according to Recon that I've just seen on Tropical Tidbits, that they've dropped a drop zone, and apparently they've found 1,009.
Oh,
yeah, I saw that.
Anywhere near the center?
Not that far, actually.
Really?
Right at the center?
Not far from the center. Not far from it.
Well, if that's the case, then looks are certainly deceiving.
Yes. But to be honest, I would agree that this thing could be, well, the Recon isn't finished yet, so we'll wait to see what they've still got to do. They probably do another loop round and come back into the storm once more. I'm also looking at 03L. They're not finding much.
Because there's another plane in there too.
Yeah. And
that one?
they've also... just one in that. I don't know what else they've... Apparently there's
a training mission
there. Yeah, there's a training mission sent out. NOAA 2. That's basically irrelevant. Well, we're looking at the Recon mission in the storm and PTC 03L. I think they found the center, well, quote unquote centers, on their flight, but to be honest, trying to find where they're going to be consolidating themselves, if they do, is going to be very difficult because, storms like that, multi-centered systems, are going to be very hard to try and find an accurate air pressure, wind speed, because as we know, well, we probably know that storms with multiple centers can differentiate in terms of strength with wind speed and air pressure. But I'd like to hope that, well, not like to hope, but you'd hope, not hope. Let me try and reword
Find another word.
Let me try and I'm not going on about Typhoon Hope here. Sorry, that pun was terrible.
Go on, what are we saying, Craig?
You'd think, there we go. You'd think that multi-centered storms would end up, organizing themselves into one-centered, and then on it goes. It's going to be on its way. The way the storm's going, the way it's going to be sheared, is going to make it very difficult.
The joys of Skype.
I'm on board with you, Hank. I absolutely hate Skype myself, so there you go. But looking at when I've seen the moisture, I don't know whether I've still got the shear open. I'll do. But looking at the shear, as long as my laptop can keep up with it.
Yes.
The wind shear that's on it, looking around it, it's incredibly high. Where its quote unquote centers is low to decreasing wind shear, but you can see really why convection is completely void. This is just devoid of on the western side of the system, and on the eastern side, it's got a lot more convection on it. That's shear tendency. Mid to level shear isn't really as bad, but it's still strong. It's going to be called any convection that mainly gets blown up on the western side is going to get ripped apart. It's going to get ripped right off. Any convection that's on the western side is probably going to last, but it's not going to be strong. But there is going to be a lot of rain with this, regardless. There will be a lot of rain. But on to Bret, anyway, given the newly fresh storm thing. The one that we've waited to be named for a long time.
Both things, aren't they? But it is actually a tropical storm,
things. Yes. Yes, it's legitimate now. It is, well,
Finally.
It's been legit for a long time.
Finally,
here's the, as we've been looking at for a past minute or so, is the mid-level wind shear for 02L or Bret, as we now call it finally. Mid-level shear is not too high. There's a little bit of high, or moderate, should we say, if you'd like to call it, a little moderate spot that Bret could be heading into if he's still making the turn. But regardless, this will be interesting.
Well, it doesn't look like there's going to be much of a turn anymore.
No.
Because when it enters the Caribbean, they say it's going to turn west anyway.
Well, regardless of that, regardless of it, that you can see here the flow of the mid-level shear. You can see which way the convection's going to go. The convection, as soon as Bret hits land, the mid-level shear is going to go, see it. Absolutely. It's going to take it. It's just going to rip the convection off.
Weren't you also going to show the water vapor imagery as well?
I was.
I think you mentioned it, but if you've got it for us there.
I thought it was severe weather warnings in the States.
I don't know. I just asked you if you could bring that up for us. Water vapor imagery.
Well, might as well just go back because it did have the proper stuff up. So that's upper level winds. So it's not really well defined in terms of.
I'm just curious to see I'm just curious to see what it's like over there in the Caribbean right now.
I got some info.
Yes.
Well, the Caribbean is pretty moist. There's a lot of moisture in the Caribbean. But here's the dry air that Caesar was on about. But to be honest, that's not a lot of wind shear. That's not a lot of wind shear. Not a lot of dry air.
Indeed. David.
In the Gulf of Mexico.
It's been reported by AP, Port of Spain, Trinidad. We know that Bret has formed. Officials said schools in the Trinidad region will close Tuesday. Government offices in the sister island of Tobago will be shuttered. Meteorologists warn of waves of more than 9 feet along the island's coast.
And also, we've got to give a quick mention to some severe thunderstorm watches and warnings along the US East Coast right now. extending from pretty much the northern part of North Carolina all the way to Maine and probably beyond.
Just about there.
Oh, there we
there's a
are.
lot
Craig's looking at it now. Here we go. I'll hand it over to the expert there.
I wouldn't really call myself an expert.
More so than me.
Wow.
Just give us a quick, brief update on this.
Well, to be honest, I haven't really been watching it most of the day, but from what I've seen, these are looking like squall lines. Very long squall line, in fact, stretching down from where Nathan said to North Carolina. But some of these severe thunderstorm warnings have been cancelled, but ready to be extended to special marine warnings as this low gets ready to move out into the Atlantic and moves away. Special marine warnings in effect elsewhere, but there is a flash flood warning in the central belt in Mississippi. Apparently, believe it or not, there was a report of 6.8 inches, or 6.80 inches worth of rain. I think that was in Georgia, if I remember correctly, where that was recorded not that long ago. Quite alarming to see that. But the flash flood warnings are from these squall lines that have been passing through the air in the last couple of days to maybe even 3 days, if that. But today, Storm Prediction Center issued a enhanced chance of severe weather. It's come to fruition. Not a lot of tornadic activity. Only one tornado warning, which came to nothing, thankfully. But pretty much not much else going on. These are mainly outflow dominant cells. They aren't really up to much. Maybe there has been the odd piece of damage. The trees have been felled. Power lines have been brought down because of the fallen trees. Some flash flooding has been reported due to the heavy rains that have been falling over the last few hours or so. But that's pretty much about it. It's been going on. As far as I'll try and see if there's been anything else going on, maybe in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Thanks very much for that. If you've just joined us, I'll relay to you the latest warnings again in the Atlantic. Tropical Storm Bret, if you've just joined us, formed in the last hour, thanks to the hurricane hunters finding its centre at long last. It's got winds of 40 miles an hour and a pressure of 1007 millibars. The warnings are in effect for Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, and for Venezuela from Pedernales to Cumana, including Isla de Margarita. There is also a tropical storm watch in effect for Bonaire, Curacao and Aruba, ABC islands. Tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions are expected in the next 24 hours, and tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions are possible in the next 48 hours, and you can just about see it on the graphic on your right. On the left is this new system, potential Tropical Cyclone 3, they call it. They've just issued in the last hour, you probably already know by now, tropical storm warnings from intracoastal city Louisiana to the mouth of the Pearl River, and a tropical storm watch from west of intracoastal city to High Island, Texas. And they're expecting possibly up to 10 inches of rainfall in isolated areas in southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi and Alabama, and even into the western Florida Panhandle still between now and Wednesday evening. If you have any questions for us, do send them in. I think someone wants to know about the UK weather. Well, there's not too much going on here. In fact, you can take a look at, not at me, but in fact what it looks like out there right now here at Force 13 HQ, and we have begun the coverage. We can take that off now. Yes, getting dark over here, one of the longest days of the year, of course. Getting towards 11 o'clock in the evening, and still cooling off after a very hot day over here with peak temperatures of 87, bearing in mind the average high is 66. And more warm weather on the way here, with some isolated thunderstorms in central parts of England, and warm temperatures on the way. But back to our real business of the evening. Who'd like to go next? if anyone.
I don't.
Nathan!
Anyone wants to.
Yes.
I'm just bringing it up.
Yes.
4 tropical storms or hurricanes are known to have made landfall on Trinidad. What ones?
Well, we sort of discussed that in the first half hour of the broadcast.
Since 1851.
Yes,
Yeah.
the most strongest being the Trinidad hurricane of 1933, and the others that we saw as well, Alma of 1974. And I know Bret of 93 was in the area. Did it actually make landfall as well?
I think Bret of 1993 made landfall. I'm not sure, but I'm kinda agree with that.
Very curious on the same name, same place, only 24 years of separation.
It is a really funny coincidence.
I just posted in the room here.
And yes, Bret made landfall in Trinidad and Tobago as a tropical storm of 60 miles per hour.
So, Cesar, do you agree with the forecast tracks of these two systems?
Well, it is I think I don't have a really accurate how is called that word? Sorry. Well, I must say that I'm agree, but I have my doubts. I mean,
Really?
a lot of
Your dads.
Doubts.
I don't know. It's a lot of variation yet, and more with 93L. 93L has been a trouble to track because a lot of models and tracking models, well, we're saying that it will make landfall first in Mexico or in the state of Veracruz or Tamaulipas, and then displace the system now to Texas, and now they're saying that it will make landfall in Florida or Louisiana as well. So there's a lot to watch with that system. And about to Bret, I'm practically fairly agree with that it will make landfall in Trinidad and Tobago, or it will go really close to Trinidad. So,
Okay.
well, this is just my predictions.
Well, you
or
know, you
opinion.
look. Let's look at this latest satellite imagery here. This is the most recent on the top of your screen there from GOES 16, the latest satellite that was launched. And there's only come into operation this year. Fantastic imagery. Wait till you see some of it on Invest 93L, soon to be Cindy, as it approaches the coast of the US. 1 minute imagery is available on portions of that storm at close resolution from RAM, if you're interested. In the system, Bret, however, is still set its course straight for Trinidad. I can't see it not making landfall, and it will just be, you know, the difference between it making landfall and not making landfall is minuscule at this point, at least for Trinidad. It's going to be a rainmaker. I think both of these storms, as Hank said earlier in the hour, are going to be rainmakers. Bret had the chance to have some stronger winds, but it looks like it's only going to be around 40-45 miles per hour, which is still significant. You'll want to be you won't want to be out of doors during that. But of course the rainfall is going to be potentially large, and especially for places like Trinidad that aren't too very used to seeing storms like this with only those 4 landfalls in the last 160 years. Hank, Isaac, are either of you still here right now?
I am. I've just been quiet.
Any more input for us?
Honestly, no.
Okay, nice. How quickly do you think Bret will go when it passes over into the Eastern Caribbean? Conditions are expected to become hostile.
Well, I think it's going to be far enough south that shear won't be as big of an issue, but land interaction will be a bigger issue. So the two will probably just cancel each other out, and the storm will just die in about 2 days, probably.
Yeah, one or two models hinting that it will survive as a remnant, a very, very poor remnant at that, I must stress, into Central America, the Honduras area, but there really won't be anything left of it by the time it gets there. But it still might be discernible by the time it reaches the other side of the Caribbean, and nothing more will come of it, I think. Not even the CMC on its craziest day would predict anything more. Craig, any developments over there? Over there. Somewhere.
He just disappeared.
Yeah, we can barely hear you. What are we looking at right now?
That'll be better. Put my headset microphone down. That might be better. What you're looking at right now is what's called a bow echo. It looks like an archer's bow. As you can see, the clear top. This is not a really well defined bow echo. It's not strong. It's actually weakening because this is the latest frame. It actually looks terrible. But he'd actually make out where here's the top of the bow, here's the bottom of the bow.
Right.
And here your string would be. Storm, as far as I know, is weak, but I've not got a lot to say about it.
And that's all moving east, correct?
Yes.
Or just sort of east-northeast, isn't it? So, how many severe thunderstorm warnings are out right now? Quite a few.
Yes.
Okay. Let's take some questions. Some questions did arrive. When will 3L be named?
Hardest
Well,
thing.
and
That's the
NHC
question
decided.
everyone wants to know, indeed.
National Hurricane Center will do it when they feel like. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Well, you know, that's it. They'll do it. It's true. Have you noticed, though, they're being a lot more cautious this year than they were last year? We would have had 2 tropical storms by yesterday if they were adopting last year's procedure.
You mean 3?
Sorry?
3?
Yes.
If you count on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. Of course, but I'm talking about 2 right now. And Matthew Smith says, can 3L still become a hurricane?
Oh, no.
I don't think the chances were ever there. I think it could go stronger than the 45 miles an hour they're saying. I think it could get quite easily to 60 miles per hour. But I don't think it's going to get to hurricane status. It would be quite something. What are the sea surface temperatures like over there? I'm guessing they're marginal if you're talking about possible subtropical status at some point.
No, they're just fine. It's the subtropical thing just has to do with the upper air environment. It has nothing to do with the sea surface temperatures around it. They're plenty warm, like 28 degrees. Not like that. They get cooler once you get towards the shelf waters, but they're still warm enough to support tropical cyclones of any type.
But even in peak season, it can... The cooler waters, even when they're right next to the coast, can have some sort of effect, can't they?
Well, yeah, because any hurricane, for that matter, normally weakens when they approach the Gulf Coast. Normally.
We were talking recently, the last... I mean, when was the last major hurricane landfall in one of those Gulf states proper, not Florida?
Was Wilma.
No, because Wilma hit Florida. If we're discounting Florida, just the rest of the Gulf states, when was the last one?
Katrina weakened. Katrina definitely weakened before landfall.
But it made landfall as a Cat 3.
True.
But it was a Cat 5.
Yeah, managed to weaken 2 categories in the process, though.
Yeah. If we're the most recent hurricane that didn't weaken is Ike. So we're discounting Florida, so we're not counting Hermine.
Well, that's not a major.
Well, Ike wasn't either. That's why I said hurricane, not major hurricane.
Okay, yes, okay.
If we're talking major hurricanes, possibly Andrew. I don't know though. Alicia
Andrew was a
supposedly
Category 4 all the way in the Gulf of Mexico, right?
did quite a good job, didn't it?
I have Andrew making a cat 4 or cat 3. I think it was a cat 3.
I think officially it was a weak category 3, say weak, 115 miles an hour at landfall.
Yeah, it was a weak cat 3. So yeah, that's wrong. Alicia probably was the most recent that didn't weaken.
Yeah, at peak intensity. And I guess you could think about Audrey as well.
Okay, well that's way too far back there. We don't even.
Just thinking about June storms. It's not. I guarantee you that. Not,
Yeah,
Zero
the only.
3L is not going to do an Audrey.
No, I don't think we'll get an Audrey for a while. I mean, when's the last time you're gonna get another cat 4 in June? I know it was downgraded to 3, but I still think it's a 4. So.
All right. Well, there we are for 1 hour at least. We'll be back again with more coverage on the developing tropical situation at the top of the next hour in just a few moments' time whilst we catch our breath for a few moments. Send your messages through to us on the live chat. And you can also follow Force 13 on Facebook and Twitter. Search Force 13 all in text. You can add Fool 13 on Skype, FOOL13, extension 9094 on Discord. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more... Yes?
I don't know whether I can jump in, but there could be a tornado touching down.
There could be a tornado touching down. Where's that? Which state?
This is in, I think this is Denver, I think. Because here's a strong velocity signature and a TVS has been put onto the system. And base reflectivity. Here's a
Alright.
echo starting to develop, so...
We'll bring you the latest on that shortly. Back soon. Continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.co.uk at your service at any time. You can also find us on YouTube, the channel, search Force 13 all in text and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also find us on Facebook at Force 13 and it's at Force 13 on Twitter, that's the handle to contact us there. You can also add Fool 13 on Skype, that's FOOL13, and add extension 9094 on Discord for tropical weather chat.